From Hollywood, it's time now for Johnny Dollar.
Where are you?
Hey, stood away on the Mayflower. Speak only to their money.
That's the Meek.
What about them?
No, not about them. It's about Mariah Meek and Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. She's lost her copy of it.
Well, it shouldn't be hard to find her another one.
That's where you're wrong, Johnny.
Huh?
It would be very hard. It might cost us $100,000.
Bob Bailey in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Assured Equity and Trust Company, 325